into the private cluster 3?
Oh, I didn't even look to see. I'll go back.
Okay.
I didn't see a notification. I know you sent me a message, but I didn't see the notification.
Yeah, no, I didn't send it because once you send it, you can't send it again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's why I was saying maybe if you check your email, that link will work.
Okay, it didn't come in my email. It came the last time the first time.
Yeah, that's the email I'm talking about from like about a week ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So let me just check and see if anybody is saying anything on Facebook about tonight. Nope. Yes, I guess I was feeling a little rushed because I went grocery shopping today. So by the time I got home, went through that whole rigmarole and I found myself rushing around trying to get ready for tonight. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good. I enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed our dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
I did too. And I was watching the video, and that picture that I sent you is like the very last shot on the video. And all of us were smiling at the same time. I said, oh, I got to capture that. Yeah, it's but I'm enjoying that book too.
It's only going to be the 3 of us.
Yeah. Huh?
So it's just going to be 3 of us on Sunday.
Yeah, probably. Gio says she might try to join us, but she didn't have the book. So, so I don't know. And we put it together so quickly, it didn't really give me a lot of time to try to promote it or recruit participants. So, but you never know who may pop in. There's so much going on in the world, I just feel like we all just need places we can just talk.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate you providing these spaces. I really do.
Thank you.
Yes.
Comes Gio. So then the question is, what has become of Kim and Leonie? I wonder, I haven't heard anything from either one of them, so I don't know if they've decided to put this book down or not. Hey, Gio.
Hey.
Hi, Gio.
So I don't know. This may be our love songs crew is what I'm thinking. Karen and I were just talking about the other book, The Begin Again. Any chance you're going to come to that one on Sundays, Gio?
I don't know. But I did enjoy watching the replay of you guys. So
Okay.
I have to read the book, so I have to read the book first.
It's a short book, so don't take too long to decide because we'll be done with that one in a minute.
Oh, okay. I might show up.
No academic jargon. It's real easy.
Oh, okay.
So far, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. It's stuff you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How you doing, Gio?
I'm doing okay. The weather's trying to warm up, and here I'm feeling guilty about not having started my plants for the garden yet.
Oh.
I saw my little hungry bees out there buzzing around. Hey, she ain't got nothing out here. We gonna have to leave.
You didn't pray for him though, did you?
They need some bread, don't they? Because I'm like the recalcitrant gardener. Sometimes I make it and sometimes I don't.
Yeah. Well, do the best you can.
Yeah, that's my story. So how are you ladies doing this week? You doing okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
All right, Michelle, that wasn't convincing, but okay.
No, I had to go grocery shopping today because it warmed up a little bit here. It went up to about 50 degrees here today.
Oh, a heat wave. Ooh.
That is a heat wave compared to the 20s and 30s we've had recently. So, and I just can't take those cold temperatures anymore. So I will stay in the house and eat peanut butter and nuts and, and survive like a hermit for as long as I can to avoid going out in the cold. So today, because it warmed up, I went out and I bought a lot of stuff. And so that was just an ordeal, getting it home and unpacked and all of that. And so I found myself rushing to pull it together to be here on time. So I'm just bringing back down my blood pressure.
Okay, all right, good. That's good. We'll see if we can help you out with that.
Yeah.
Oh, and Karen, how you doing? Okay, I'm just jumping all over the place.
No, go ahead.
Okay, Karen, because I missed, when you guys came on. How are you doing? How are you doing out there?
I'm doing okay, but I could use some prayers. Y'all just lift me up in prayer, please.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, we may as well go ahead and get started. And Gio, I did a little cheat sheet. Let me see how to share the screen. Cheat sheet card to do the welcome.
Oh, okay.
So who wants to do the welcome tonight? Let me put up the cheat sheet.
Let's see what you got first before I volunteer.
Can you see it?
Not yet. Oh, there we go. Oh, I love that color.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I could do it since you did it last week, Gio.
Right.
Welcome to the Global Black Feminist Reading circle, and this is session 17. And we are reading the love songs of W.E.B. Du Bois by Honorée Fanonne Jeffers. And yeah, and I'm Karen Johnson, and I'm coming to you from Salt Lake City.
All right. All right, and I am, now how do okay. I am Michelle Odom, coming to you from Brooklyn, New York. My book.
Okay. And I'm Georgette Moses, joining you guys from Columbia, South Carolina. And my book is digital. So just imagine the cover that Michelle just displayed right here. Okay.
Yeah, okay. All right, so I do have a summary I can read. That may help refresh our memories. Let's share. Let me share a screen. It's actually, I do the summaries to include them in the invitation. So you guys probably have a copy of this somewhere, but I will read it. In these 3 chapters, Happy Birthday, Pecan Trees, and various Miscellanea and Altered Story, Ailey continues her summer vacation in deep country. She turns sweet 16 in less than exciting circumstances, receives a first edition of The Souls of Black Folk from Uncle Root, a pen and pencil set from Baybay, and a check from her parents. She starts going steady with Baybay, whom now wants to be called David, and the two engage in heavy petting. On a traffic stop, David is warned by the sheriff to stay away from the liquor store, and Uncle Root shares the family history of bad relations between the Pinchards and Franklins, and the time he was almost lynched on a pecan tree, but was saved by his white brother. Uncle Root, who is teaching Ailey to play chess, has transgressed racial and gender lines throughout his life, moving to predominantly white neighborhoods and taking his wife's last name. He shares how his first meeting with W.E.B. Du Bois included meeting the author Jessie Fawcett and his future wife, Olivia Ellen Hargrace. The two would earn doctorates at Mecca University before returning to settle in the South. Rookie wanted to pull a train on Ailey, high on Mad Dog and marijuana, but was protected by Baybay. Ailey breaks up with David, who refuses sex with her, and Uncle Root offers a lesson in love and forgiveness. So, who wants to take it from there?
Well, I noticed that, so last week I erroneously said that I didn't see connections from the past to the present. And I thought it was kind of like Gio used the word, it was disjointed. And because the writing style is different, there's the historical fiction of the past, and then there's the relatively contemporary story narrated basically by Ailey. But in rethinking the song that introduces these chapters, I began, especially the last three chapters, I began to see connections between the song and these last three chapters that we read. Because I began to reflect on Aggie, who's down in Georgia, and Aggie's life with regards to the love from her parents. Her parents were in a loving relationship, to also her having the opportunity to learn about her family history, her ancestry. And so then I saw a connection between that and Ailey, because when I read these last three chapters, I kept saying, oh, going to Georgia was a much better choice for Ailey than it was to have gone to Martha's Vineyard, because going to Georgia allowed to have her meaningful connections with her mother's side of the family and with those cultural roots, with just ordinary Black folks who are grounded in the African cultural tradition, African American cultural traditions in Georgia. And so you definitely see that with her connections with her childhood friends, with her connection with Uncle Root, who seemed to be a very significant part of her life, because he tells the stories, just like Aggie was learning the stories from her mama. Ailey is learning the stories about the Black cultural tradition and her family tradition from Uncle Root. So in the end, I was saying it was definitely significant for her to be in that space at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like Uncle Root. He's the kind of uncle we should all have. I did let me see if I can I did a post related to here it is, related to the souls of Black folk. So let me share that. Okay. So this is on the Reading Changes Lives website, which let me show you from the beginning, which incidentally I have been editing a lot lately. And so, so this is the homepage. This is the homepage, which I have now made very colorful.
Nice.
Oh, nice, nice.
Thank you. And at the bottom of toward the bottom of all of the pages, there's this little section called the latest blogs from Book Chat News. So this is the blog that I'm referring to, but another way to get to the blog is up here on the menu called Book Chat News right here.
Okay.
So if I go there, so the blog is a combination of now things for both book groups going on. So this African students piece is about is related to the other book group. But let me I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's kind of long, I think. But it's called Ailey Sweet 16 Gift, a first edition of the Souls of Black Folk. And down here, this at the start of all the blog posts is the tweet. So I'm going to skip that. For her 16th birthday, Uncle Root gave Ailey a first edition of The Souls of Black Folk by W.E.B. Du Bois. Ailey didn't have much appreciation for the gift, but one seller is currently offering a first edition of the volume published in 1903 for $9,500. And when Uncle Root gave me a package, I foolishly let my hopes get up until I saw it was a hardcover book. He told me it was the first edition of The Souls of Black Folk. He nodded decisively as if the matter of my happiness was settled. There probably aren't many 16-year-olds who would appreciate this book as a gift, but Uncle Root's offering is an indication of how important this book has been in the histories of both African American literature and sociology. See some of the comments about it below. And then down here, the first edition from this $9,500 copy is from the library of a labor activist called Benjamin Stolberg. The Souls of Black Folk is a classic work of American literature by W.E.B. It is a seminal work in the history of sociology and a cornerstone of African American literary history. To develop this groundbreaking work, Du Bois drew from his own experiences as an African American in the American society. Outside of its notable relevance in African American history, The Souls of Black Folk also holds an important place in social science as one of the early works in the field of sociology. Then there's a first edition for $2,500. There's a 17th edition that's $3,500. And this book contains a chapter called The Sorrow Songs, which is where Honorée Fanonne Jeffers found inspiration for writing the love songs of W.E.B. Chapter 14, The Sorrow Songs, is about Negro music. He refers to the short musical passages at the beginning of each of the other chapters. Bois mentions that the music was so powerful and meaningful that regardless of the people's appearance and teaching, their hearts were human and their singing stirred men with a mighty power. Bois concludes the chapter by bringing up inequality, race, and discrimination. He says, "Your country? How came it yours? We were here." Bois heralds the melody of the slave songs or the Negro spirituals as the articulate message of the slave to the world. They are the music, he contends, not of the joyous Black slave, as a good many whites had misread them, but of an unhappy people, of the children of disappointment. They tell of death and suffering and unvoiced longing toward a truer world, of misty wanderings and hidden ways. For Du Bois, the Sorrow Songs represented a Black folk culture with its origins in slavery, unadulterated by the civilizing impulses of a Northern Black church, increasingly obsessed with respectability and with Western aesthetic criteria. Rather than vestiges of a backward time that should be purged from Black repertoires and isolated from what Alain Locke called the modernization of the Negro, Negro spirituals are, for Du Bois, where the souls of Black folk, past and present, are found. And he goes on and on and on. So I feel like a lot of what I see going on with Honorée in this book is that she's using experiences like this, like Ailey's 16th birthday, to drop, really important cultural information and historical information if we get curious enough to, follow the leads. But she's dropping a lot of leads. And so I enjoyed that story, that gift from Uncle Root, because she doesn't go into any detail about how important this book is in Black history. It's just there, it's just there. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Thank you for sharing that. I like those connections, and I appreciate that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. What else?
Oh, I saw a connection between the song in this section, and the last line of that song said, "Yet we did not nod, nor weary of the scene, for this is historic ground." And I made that connection when Uncle Root took David and Ailey to the spot where he was almost hung at the pecan tree, and while he was relating the history of the family there. So yeah.
What I also like, I'm sorry.
No, I just said, yeah, historic ground is kind of all through this one.
I think that for Ailey, when I think about Ailey when she's up north with her parents and Nana, etc., you don't really get, well, you get a sense of family, right? But you don't get a strong, what do I want to say, a strong cultural connection except through the food. And I noticed that food seems to also play a role. Did we talk about this before? The food seems to play a role in terms of making the connections with how family comes together, holding on to cultural roots, and the significance of it. And the fact that Nana dismisses that, that's telling, because food is so important in the gathering with the food and around the holidays or special occasions, etc., signifies how African-American, and I know I'm essentializing, but how African-American celebrates each other and celebrate our culture. And so that's where I see like a cohesiveness and holding on to her culture up north. But in the South, it just seemed like it's just so down home, so rooted in the soil of Georgia. It's so rooted in her ancestral traditions. And so that's why I also like the fact that she went down South, because we get that a fuller picture of the Black cultural aesthetics and a grounding with one's history. Because Nana is so classist and colorist that she only celebrates the bourgeoisie. She doesn't celebrate holding on to the importance of your cultural roots, right? And so going to the mama's family, you definitely see that. Right, even with her, when she talked, there was a section where she talked about sitting on the porch with her, I think it was her grandmother, and was that her grandmother's sister? Who was the grandmother was talking to?
Pauline.
Right. And, I could imagine that. I imagine them sitting on the porch, and I forgot what kind of food they had, but I've seen that with with older family members when I was a kid, sitting on the front porch and taking the peas or the green beans or whatever and snapping them and putting them in the colander and talking about family members or talking about whatever. But it just seemed like a significant gathering. And it has really, and this was in New York City in Long Island. This is on my father's side of the family. When I guess when I was a little girl, it seemed like Queens or Long Island was still kind of country. That's the memory that I have, because I think there was development going on. And so I have an elderly family member, women family members, just sitting there, and they're all from the Carolinas, and just talking their talk, and talking with the accent, and just being women in the family. And those memories are so significant to me, so significant. And so that's why I kind of connected to the story with Ailey in terms of having that journey in Georgia. Does that make sense?
It sure does.
Definitely. Definitely. I'm glad Uncle Root didn't get lynched. And I thought he was really smooth, really cool. The way he shared that story, the way he took the kids out to the spot, and he wasn't like yelling at them, because he knew, obviously somebody had told him that they had been buying liquor, right? So he knew, but he didn't try to come down on them all hard. He was just letting them know, there's some history here. You might not understand everything that's going on around you.
Yeah.
And that's that story that the Sheriff Franklin, the Franklin family. That's what I was talking about last week when I was saying, there's a family feud kind of theme going on with that family. Like there was in whatever we were reading about last week, and I think with the Africans, and and why the imam betrayed the marabout that caused his family to be sold into slavery. And so this theme of stuff going on that you don't know anything about, or have anything to do with, but are suffering the consequences of, somebody else's stuff.
True.
Right. And then also, in today's age, we talk about, have you had to talk with your kids, right? Like folks having to talk with your kids. So that, in a sense, was a way of having the talk with them.
Yeah.
Those two encounters, David and Ailey with the sheriff, and then with Uncle Root, as you brought it back, made me think about what Southern people always say, who your people is. They always want to know. And it's not only just because, a genetic thing. We want to make sure if y'all get together, it's not a problem.
Yeah,
But the family history, right? And then the fallings out, the drama,
right.
everybody is keeping track, orally about the history and what's been going on. So
Mhm.
you don't want to be some collateral damage because you don't know the history of the people who are living in an area.
Right,
Um,
right. Mhm.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, that also. Do you guys know the show Queen Sugar?
Right,
yeah, I
right.
did watch the first season, but hadn't gotten back to it
Yeah,
yet.
I'm not up to date on it, but there's that also that kind of dynamic where they're fighting old history
Mhm.
and old family feud.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I guess that's probably prevalent when you have uh, a long legacy of family on the land who's been on that land for generations and had those interactions with um, the white folks. And so you'll have those feuds. But if you're new folks moving into new development, like in Atlanta, you have so much a lot of people transplanting there. And so they don't have that legacy, right? And they don't have the legacy, oh, this land, I know this land, or I know these, or whatever. So those family feuds come with that long legacy of black and white interactions, but it's also tied to land, right?
Yeah.
Right. And, like I was telling you guys last week, I have moved around so much in my life that
Mhm.
I really don't have that experience anywhere, that I can put my finger on.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, it is. I know I mentioned also last week that when I was in high school, I thought the South was a magical place. And the reason, I mean, I knew about the segregation because my mama would have us, she would be watching it on the news with the in Birmingham, Alabama. I forgot the cracker down there. Oh, excuse my language. But the person
Bull Connor.
Yeah, that guy.
spraying the kids and all of that. So I remember seeing that as a little girl. But when I became in high school, I had high school friends who had Southern roots, and we would go down south. But they would talk about it in a way that almost what Ailey was experiencing, reconnecting with childhood friends, reconnecting with the elders in your family, and having the kind of experiences of going hanging out at the water and going fishing with all of that. And so I thought that was magical. And then coming back and so excited, I had a great time. And all I did was spend my summers in New York City. I mean, New York City is an exciting place, but the way they had their lived summer experiences was something I felt I was missing out on. And so reading those last
Mhm.
chapters really kind of reminded me, oh yeah, that's something that I wanted to experience. And having those kind of connections, even though I did have those connections in New York, particularly with my father's people, because they were Southern
Mhm.
folk and having
Mhm.
not realized, but seeing it it was a difference. It's a difference having it in the urban area than it is in the rural South.
Yeah, you're right. Hmm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
And the charter that says an alternate story. What do you think why do you think she titled it that? an altered story. And it was a short
You
one.
know, I was wondering about that. Maybe it's related to it looked like she was on a path for Baybay/David to be the love of her life.
Oh.
And then they had this falling out, and that flipped the script. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up because I was wondering about that myself. I didn't really get
Okay.
that name.
Yeah,
Right.
that's interesting. And it's making me think about so the story she imagined that might occur, right? Ailey's imagining how this should play out, and it changes because of one incident, her jealousy that arises that she can't control. And so the story is altered. Now David is no longer the love of her life, and whatever might develop from there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Uncle Root has an altered story also, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He's gone to see the boys, and who happens to be, rejected, who's across the
Mhm.
hallway, but a famous author. And who's in there in the room? His future wife. So
Oh yeah.
things that you're disappointed about how they unfold may be for your benefit,
No.
and you just have to adjust how you're going to accept how things play out, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So
Mhm.
and I was curious about the title too. I'm like, okay, what are you saying here? Something didn't happen the way you said it happened before,
Mm-hmm.
but
Right.
it's about the story of your life being altered.
Well,
So I
okay.
think.
That's good.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, what did you
Yeah.
think about that when Uncle Root is making Ailey play this chess game because she's all in her feelings, and he's like, "No, child, you need to learn how to protect your queen, and I'm gonna teach you. Those preserves can wait." I'm paraphrasing, but that protect your queen, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was such an important, powerful, multi-layered statement he made there, because you got to protect your queen. Learn the strategy on and
Mm-hmm.
how and chess. They say learning how to play chess helps you learn how to maneuver in life. You learn about strategy and planning and waiting to see what your opponent's going to do, and then having options, right, to counter that.
Right.
So through the game, he and his talk, his kind, insightful words to her, he's teaching her how to strategize her life.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought
Well,
that
I
was
like
really
that
cool.
connection. I don't really like that. I didn't pick up on that. I like that. I also like the fact that Uncle Root's name is Root because he's the
Mm,
main one that tells her stories. They help her connect to her history. Like you said, playing chess as a way to um, help guide her as a young woman, giving her the books by Du Bois, because I know later on that she does do her genealogy. So then that is allows for a connection, and then plus making it connected to the title and the songs, right?
mhm,
So root, I'm thinking about roots, you being connected to your roots, and so
Mhm.
Uncle Root plays that role in terms of being connected to your roots.
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I like him a lot. Um, um,
He's
I
something else
especially like.
though. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I especially like that he took his wife's name.
Oh, right,
That
Yeah.
seems very progressive
right.
for that time era.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it speaks volumes about his intelligence
Mm.
and sensitivity and uh, bigness.
Right.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was something else. I don't know how many people might have survived jumping on a white dude with a knife.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, oh my goodness.
Well,
He
he
had
had that white
weapons.
brother, so
Yeah, that saved him. That
that
definitely
saved
saved
him.
him.
Mhm.
Uh, because other than that,
And then him just
he'd have been on the
purposely, oh
pecan
yeah, yeah,
tree.
right, right. He'd have been another notch on the tree.
Mhm.
But and then moving to, he single-handedly trying to desegregate a neighborhood. and then
Yeah.
and then I've never in some all the accounts that I've read so far about people these the first non-white person moving into a neighborhood like that, characterizing the things that they did to him as not so bad because at least they didn't burn the cross and nobody tried to do anything violent, physically to him. And well, I guess he had a point, but he was just, a maverick,
Yeah, he
going
was
out there.
saying he got some kind of pleasure out of
Yeah. Getting on their last nerves, right?
like,
Stomping on their
yeah.
last nerves, I think he said. Like, okay, so you're bored. This is what you do because you're bored.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I said. He's an interesting character.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And he seems more. And so Uncle Root, I was looking at the genealogy, um, and so he's more of an uncle to her mom, right? I was trying to figure that out. He's a
I don't have it straight.
oh yeah, I think he's the mother's uncle. He's definitely on the mother's
Okay.
side, side of
Yeah.
the family.
Yeah.
But I think I'm trying to look for it now. But he's a mother's uncle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see.
I think so.
I don't know. I was thinking he was Belle's brother, but he's not.
So Belle, let me see. Her brothers are Roscoe Nick Driscoll, Joffro Leroy Driscoll, and they were twins that died in infancy. And she had Norman and then her. So he is, I guess he's more like an uncle to her. And so then that would be Ailey's great uncle. Because his mom is Maybelline Lily May, Victorian Freeman. And his father is Thomas Big Tom John Pinchard. So, and then, yeah, I had to figure it out. But yeah, it looks like he's.
Yeah, well, the Pinchards, I thought those were Nana's people.
So Nana comes from, her people are, that's what I thought originally, but I guess it is, her family are the Garfields.
Okay.
Zachary Garfield family, and Zachary is tied to, this tree is a long tree.
It's a long tree, yeah.
It's a long family tree, and I'm trying to find Zachary on this tree. But I think he does fall under the, if somebody's related to the Pinchard.
Okay.
I'm not seeing his name right now, but
Okay.
I'm believing he is.
Okay.
Yeah, her Nana's father. Yeah, so this is the Zachary Garfield's family, and that's where Nana come from.
Okay.
And it looked like Pearl is tied to both families.
Pearl is something different. She's not.
Pearl Thomasina. It's more than one Pearl.
But they call her, no, I'm thinking about Pauline.
Oh, yeah, it's two different Pearl. It's Pearl Thomasina Dear Freeman. And
Okay.
her mama was Maybelline Lily May, and her
Mhm.
father was Thomas Big Tom John Pinchard.
Okay.
Then I see and then I see Pearl on this other side, under the Pinchard family. So I see Pearl. This is weird to me because I really have to study this again. I see her on the Aggie side. Oh, Aggie was a Pinchard. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. That's the family that enslaved her.
mm-hmm.
And then she grew up with the Pincard boy, and they got married. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, it's a complicated, lineage. Not more than any of ours.
Yeah.
It's just that it's going to take a while to absorb it all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of characters, large genealogy, and and then being that they're in the past, we get bits and pieces of them. That is,
and and also how Black folks, how we can call anybody that's older, we may be calling them uncle or auntie or mama, or,
right.
Anybody that's a contemporary is a cousin.
Yeah.
But,
So there's that.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but Uncle Root knows he knows the deep history, so he's been around a long time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so
Yeah.
the other, for me, he's the other. It's so far, there's two Black male figures that I like the way she writes about them.
Mm-hmm.
His dad. We don't get a lot of him, but he seemed to be very loving, very conscious of women's sense of beauty, and praise them and validate them. And we definitely seeing that with Uncle Root, right? Taking on the women's and like you were saying, Gio, helping her to understand how to protect her queen. So she's getting all of that from her uncle and her dad. And her mom, of course, is very loving, but she holds on to prevailing assumptions about what a role a woman should play. And so does Nana. Nana does that with gender and class and colorism. But it's through the fatherly figures that they allow her to see womanness from a different light, one that centers the female experience and respects it and validates it.
Yeah, and that's my experience with Southern men. My daddy was from the and that's just been my experience with a lot of Southern men, that they tend to be much more respectful of women. And my father, he only had one brother, so he didn't have any sisters. But he was very supportive of women and girls. So I always just thought it's something he learned in that Southern culture. Yeah. Unlike a lot of the men that I've known from the North, who...
Oh, no. It depends on who raised them, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I read like Satima Clark, I've done a lot of research on her. And she, you all familiar with Satima Clark, who's a civil rights activist in South Carolina. And so when I read her, she has a lot of archival documents and materials and correspondences, etc. She even had written an autobiography, and there is so much. I've done research on her, looked at her papers, right? Mm-hmm. And but one thing that she says, so this is a counter argument to what you said, Michelle, that when she was involved in the civil rights movement, that it was the men in the movement who felt that women, the only role that women should play in the movement is to be servants to the men, like getting their coffee or mimeographing. At the time, they were mimeographing flyers to put around. So you play that traditional roles that women are supposed to play, as you're not going to be the leader, but you're going to be the secretary to what we do. And so, and so they were very chauvinistic. They were not respectful to the role that women played. And she named names. She named names of well-known civil rights activists that she worked with, but I'm not going to name them. But she does name them in her interviews, etc. And all of them are very chauvinistic. And these women were significant women in the movement. Her contemporaries were like Ella Baker, right? And so these women were very, very significant in the role that they play as activists, but they also were stymied by the men who were part of that movement, because these men were very chauvinistic.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, my father was really rather progressive, ahead of his time type of guy. He mentored a lot of women into becoming preachers in the AME church when very few other people were doing that kind of thing. Oh. But I'm laughing because I remember the time he said, "Come over here, let me show you how to iron my shirt." Because he traveled a lot. He was always getting ready for a business trip. And he was like, "Come over here, let me teach you how to iron the shirt so you know how to do it for your husband one day." And we laughed because we knew that was some funny shit. So, but like I said, he grew up in the South, but he also was a preacher's kid who had moved all over the country himself. So he had a different kind of perspective. But a lot of the men that he was around, I would say they were chauvinistic, but still, I don't know, protective, respectful, courteous of women. And you also have to remember, those were the times, and just like you said a few minutes ago, Belle is very, conscientious of kind of staying in her role as the wife. And so the women also, including my mother, the women also went along with the program. And my mother, who was, would never use the label feminist, but had a fairly independent spirit for many years. I mean, she stayed at home when we were like babies, toddlers. But she was always anxious to get back to work because she liked the idea of having her own money. But what I saw with her is she would work all day and then still come home and cook dinner And, then she had to have a drink to deal with the stress of it all. Right? And it just looked like too much to me. Too much to me. So she was like walking this line between, wanting a measure of independence, but also going along with the traditional expectations of women at that time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, speaking
I
of
don't know how much things have changed. No, go ahead, Tia.
Oh, I was gonna say that made me think about reasons why Nana might have given Ailey the book. What is it? Plum Bun, not a story of morals, or what I think is the title, complete title of it, about a woman who's passing. Trying to let her know that, hey, you can have fun. It doesn't have to be, do or die. I'm having fun. Read about it. No. So that was interesting.
Well, I don't think Ailey could pass, though, right? I think she's a little darker than that.
No. So maybe
but Uncle Root could pass,
right? Because he's got this totally white relative there. He goes to visit. So yeah.
Yeah, remember he passed at the candy store when he and his wife first moved back south. He jumped the line using his white skin privilege. That's why he got in the fight and almost got hung.
Okay, that would have been some real expensive candy. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think descriptions that I've read of Ailey, I don't know if it's so far in what we've read in the book or something I've read someplace else, but I think she's supposed to be like tall and kind of dark and kind of heavy, thick.
Okay. And so when you say dark, like what?
I don't know. I mean, dark like I'm dark.
Huh?
Dark like I'm dark. Like, I mean, I don't know with Ailey, but I just mean I can't pass.
Okay.
Nobody is confused.
Okay.
So, but I think Nana can pass. Ruth can pass.
Lydia.
Yeah, that side of the family.
Right. So Honorée, as you know, this book was Oprah Winfrey's book pick back in the fall, and so I follow Oprah Winfrey's book club on IG and Instagram, and so Honorée shared photos of her family. So she had 3 siblings, 3 sisters. The older sister was very light skinned. Her daddy's mama, she shared a picture of her daddy's mama who was young, who was a very light skinned woman with very long hair that looked like she could pass. It was kind of like, I think it was kind of a black and white photo, but she looked like she probably could pass. And I just thought that was interesting as I'm reading this book. I said, oh, okay. I know that, this is a fiction. But sometimes writers draw on their own personal experiences to tell the story. And so in this storytelling, I'm seeing comparisons. The light-skinned grandmother who looked with the long hair who could pass, the light-skinned older sister, and having three siblings. And then also seeing Honorée's mom, who's definitely African American. And so in thinking about Nana, I could assume that if Nana saw Honorée's mom, and you're just connecting the
right.
real life, I could see Nana disapproving of Honorée's mom in real life. So I just thought those connections to me are interesting, because it shows me these are the influences of how you write this story. Not saying that this is your life story, but I can see the influences.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool. Thanks for sharing that, Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and even Honoree's coloring, herself. And I'm thinking about the relationship between Nana and Ailey, where when Ailey started to make those connections about how Nana had treated Belle all those years, and how she had treated Ailey, don't get out of that sun. Honorée probably has some real personal experience with that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when I think about my own personal family on my mother's side, so my grandmother, my mother's mother, was very, very light skinned, and she grew up in DC with a huge family, and her father, he was part Native American, Native person, and her mother, of course, was African American. And his mother didn't particularly like, and so he was part Native and African American, and then his wife, my great grandmother, was a dark skinned Black woman, and so his mother didn't particularly care for that. But my grandmother turned out to be extremely light skinned with red hair. And so people always called her Red Bone. And so because she was very light skinned, she got not in the family, because the family was a struggling, poor, working class family. And but she always got favor, right? And she got favor from her father's mother. And so she migrated to New Jersey, because that's where her father's mother lived. And in the Trenton, New Jersey area, right? And so the other siblings were jealous, but that was the only one that a grandmother favored because of her skin color. But then she meets, and I'm sharing this story to talk about colorism in the family. And so then she meets my grandfather at one of the churches. And so there's a long history of Black folks being in Trenton, New Jersey, in Union Township? Ewing Township in Trenton. And then there's a Black church that has a long history in that. So my grandfather's people have a long, long history in Ewing Township in terms of being one of the three Black early families, right? And so, but my grandfather was, in his siblings, one of his siblings were extremely dark skinned. He was a good looking man, and he was extremely dark skinned. However, his mama used to always say to him and to his siblings, don't you bring a dark skinned Black girl or Black boy, depending on which children you're talking to. So all of them were involved with not just light skin. They were involved with extremely light skin girlfriends and partners and spouses. They were the type that you would say, what is she? Is she Black? Or something like that, right? And so, but my grandmother, she, as a light-skinned person, she didn't buy into that. She loved dark-skinned men. And so she didn't buy into that because I'm light-skinned, I think I'm better. And in fact, she would call people out on the table. It's like, oh, they don't want to be with that person because they too Black for you.
Oh my goodness.
telling somebody else, but they too Black for you. They too Black. Being angry and calling people out.
Yeah.
Fathers, people, it's like all their spouses were extremely light Black people. And I thought that was jacked up to the point that talk about being a young person and going away with your elderly family. And so one time my mother sent us, so my grandfather's sister, who also was into playing that color game because that was instilled in them. She and her husband lived in Buffalo, New York. So my sister and I would go to Buffalo for the summer when we were kids. And we had a cousin who would come, she was from Philly, and she would come up there. But she looked light skinned because, because her mama and all of that, my grandfather's brother, she was related to my grandfather's brother, all of them light skinned. And so we would go up there, and so we would know, so we was looking at her, is she white, me and my sister? And then we, find out, oh, she's our cousin, through the grandfathers being brothers. But my grandfather's sister, the aunt who's sponsoring us, would give her favor over my sisters and I. And I was on the phone calling my mom. I said, we want to come home because this is not right. And we're little kids. So anyway, those kind of things just make me remember how colorism gets played out. And it can be negatively impactful on the kids and the family.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So whereas Nana, trying to bring it back to the story, whereas Nana bought into the colorism and thinking that she was better, and then looking at my grandmother, she was the total opposite. She would date Black, dark-skinned men because she loved them and call people out on the carpet, and also raise people awareness about that.
Yeah. Well, my mother was light-skinned, not light enough to pass, but her mother was light enough to pass. I don't know if she ever did. My mother had a very, I would say, high Black consciousness. And so that's kind of my experience with light-skinned people, that rather than thinking they're better than, they may be carrying a resentment about the rape indicated in their history by the color of their skin. They may be carrying a resentment that, when it comes to white hatred, if you got a drop of Black blood that we know about, then that's reason enough to diminish you. So for me, and I've had that experience with a number of light-skinned people that, that rather than feeling better than, they're angry, about how it separates them because they don't really fit. They don't really fit in the white community, and the Black community is not always so nice to them either. I had one of my older brother is pretty light, and I used to always call him white boy growing up. I mean, if I ever just had the urge to see that boy turn red.
Oh my goodness.
It would burn him. So, I mean, there's just so much that gets baked into our sense of self, that's connected to not only how we see ourselves, but how the world sees us. What benefits we get, what opportunities we get.
Right.
Because it's not just within the family, but it's also, happens in the work world.
Right.
It's only in the last few years, for example, that you started to see dark-skinned girls in the videos and, kind of prominently featured and on TV. But for years and years, I mean, first, there were no Blacks, right? And then when they started to incorporate Blacks, it was light-skinned Blacks.
Right. And you still see that in the news media. You don't see a lot of Deborah Roberts, the kind of news commentators.
Right. But there's some, got your Joy Reid.
At the national level, but locally, in these smaller towns and cities, you'll see them. They may not stay long. They will, and you can always tell because of how they carry themselves and how they dress. You're like, oh, they're not staying here long. Pretty soon they'll be, at CNN or MSNBC, because that's the kind of thing that happened with Craig Melvin, because he came out of here, Columbia, South Carolina, and he was like a breath of fresh air. I'm like, where did this brother come from? Okay. And then before you knew it, he was getting attention. He was getting segments on the national news. And then the next thing you know, he moved to DC. He's out of here. I'm like, okay, Craig.
Well, that's a good point, because here in Salt Lake City, there's been some dark skinned news anchor women. And I know one, she might have stayed for maybe 3 years, 4 years the most. And then she left and she went to Seattle. So that's a good point. And so now we have another woman. And like you said, they dress nice. I don't want to be stereotyped as if I'm surprised, but I like their professionalism and how they carry themselves, how they look, how they are, do the news, etc. Very professional. So this one that we have now, I really like her. We just don't know how long she's going to stay, like you said.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, is it the work environment that they're in, or is it just the lack of opportunity, right? That's making them, well, okay, there's a spot over there. Let me just, move on up because that's what I want to do, because I love what I'm doing.
Right.
And I've noticed that they will groom, well, here locally and on some of the news stations, they'll groom the younger reporters. Because first you'll see them doing a little local on the street segment, and they're in, I don't know, overalls, and the hair's not quite wonderful. And this is black and white, and we also had an Asian guy, and and then they got a young intern, and the next thing if they like them, I guess if they get along in the work environment, you'll see them do more and more segments And I
Right.
think, and we have a young lady who I remember when she was in pigtails, and now she's like married. I'm like, okay, she's okay. So you know, it's I guess the environment suited her, and she wanted to stay because clearly she is, and it's not stereotypical. We're just not. They've not been given the opportunity, right, to show as the best that they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we see them, we're celebrating them. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it, like you said, it's not stereotypical. You're not being stereotypical. You're celebrating that, yes, we can do this. And we need to see more people who look like us, you know.
Right.
And the Asians, we have a large Asian population. And then finally, we had
Oh, really?
yeah, we do. We got everybody.
Hmm.
They're moving on up. No, no, stop.
Wow.
And there's one Asian newscaster I saw, and now in the past 2 years, we've even got more Latinx people, represent. And God, the sea change was for them to do the news in bilingual. I'm like, now you're doing something, right?
Right.
Wow.
Recognize the populations that need the information you're providing, and
Right.
who are clicking on, they're clicking on your station. Your
Right.
advertisers should cater to the people who are watching, right?
Right.
So make it easier for them, to feel like they're being welcomed. You have a diverse
Mm-hmm.
community, serve them. I'm all for it. I'm like, okay, I need to learn some Spanish. Okay, why not? Que
Right.
pasa?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All
De nada.
right, all right. Okay. Oh, poco poco. No, 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 poco poco. No.
Me too. Is there anything that we should say about the teen sex, drugs
Oh Lord, it turned into a
angle going
steamy.
on?
I'm like, okay, this is the gratuitous sex scene to make it marketable. Or did somebody say, "Hey, Honorée,
Yeah.
we gotta see something."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So she certainly delivered, but I do appreciate that she highlighted the difference between Buki and Baybay / David, and who was actually courting her in a traditional fashion. He did chores around with her grandmother's house, and he spoke to her Uncle Rude. They had a relationship, so he could show that he was a decent young man, even though he had a rep. Oh yeah, 'cause he was a young guy. So now his cohort, Bookie, like, he ain't care. Look now, she's here. That means she want to get down, and we gonna get down. I'm like, okay, brother, you gonna be in jail or someplace in a few years. No,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but yeah, it was. But she was. Yeah, but I have to say she was. She did present the situations. Um, I don't know if beautiful is the right word, but they were credible. They were credible, right? The dialogue between the
Mhm.
characters was credible, and the situations were credible. So I I I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Hey, they got hormones raging. So how are we going to carry this, this awakened sexuality in Ailey, to fruition or the next goal point here in the story. So I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, that makes sense. Couldn't have Chris up there, but she's
That's
down here with David.
juxtaposed with the love story, um, juxtaposed with the love story that Root has had going on with his wife.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
You know. So yeah. Also with that Buki, Ailey said something to him about, I think he made it through summer school. And she said something like, I thought you were going to be 20 years old before you got out of high school. So, so I feel like in this part of the book, we've just seen the seeds of what could go in a lot of different directions. Like if I imagine Buki, 10 years out, 20 years out, he's in prison,
Well, yeah.
David is probably a doctor. um, so I look forward to seeing the how all this plays out as we go along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Hey, she might throw a monkey wrench in there. And Buki is Pastor Buki of the
He could
news.
be. He could well be talking about how I used to smoke herb. I used to drink Mad Dog 2020. I'm here to tell you.
That's right.
Absolutely.
One day by the pecan tree, Jesus came to me.
Yeah. So we are, I guess close to 200 pages in. So it's starting to really, I think get to the meat of it. So next week is the next two pieces, Song 4 and Brother Man Magic. So I can't imagine what that could be about.
We shall see.
We shall see. I have not read ahead, so I'm going to do that in the next couple of days.
Okay.
But we're at the end of Song 3. All of those chapters were under Song 3.
Right.
So I guess Ailey's going to make her way back up north.
Okay. So we're not reading, so we're just doing Song 4 and Brother Man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, ladies. That was good.
Yeah.
I forgot. I'll be out of town next week. So
you won't be here next week.
Right.
And then the Sunday after that. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I'll be the 9th. What is the 9th Wednesday? Yeah, the 9th and the 13th. I won't be on either book club.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, safe travels.
Thank you.
All right. Take care of yourself.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.
Right. Y'all have a good week.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.